want to start this video off by saying I love Old School Runescape, and I have high praise when it comes to Jagex. I think they are one of the best developer teams I have ever seen, especially because I've played games like War Robots, Pixonic. I have consistently loved pretty much every update Jagex brings to Old School. And generally, I do enjoy Leagues quite a lot. I actually completed the entire grid for this year. But I can't sit here and say it's all perfect. There are some glaring issues I've come across that have made my efforts in Leagues borderline useless. You see, this year for Gridmaster, the new League-style temporary event, I was ready to sit down and grind everything I could possibly get my hands on to become the ultimate mage, a Grand Wizard. With the end goal being to complete the Tombs of a Masket as fast as possible. I grinded for hours upon hours, most of which are recorded on my channel through the live streams. No! Oh my gosh, I just pogged so hard. All of this to reach the pinnacle of the mage class, in hopes it would be enough to execute most enemies in Toa, by using the tier 6 magic Combat Masteries. This mastery would guarantee I land my max hit so long as the enemy's health is below my current max hit. And it's around this mechanic we run into most of our issues. First of which, we need to talk about the Shadow. With this weapon equipped, any magic strength you receive from items is tripled, and when you're in the Tombs of a Masket, the item's magic strength is instead quadrupled. And with powerful items like Amulet of the Monarchs and the Emperor's Ring available to us, you should be able to stack up a theoretical 148% magic damage while in the Tombs, if using Max Mage, with the Battle Hat, Emperor's Ring, and Amulet of the Monarchs. But little did I know, the game actually hard clamps your magic damage percent if you go above 100%. That's right, it's hard coded into the game to not allow your magic damage to go above 100%. Me being a naive little boy with high spirits spent countless hours grinding the perfect mage build this year. I fought the Awakened bosses to get the Battle Hat, after getting the Slayer Helm, only to realize that, well, the Slayer Helmet's bonus doesn't work specifically on the Awakened bosses. I completed the Inferno in under 30 minutes to achieve my Monarch necklace. I defeated Soul Heretic for my Emperor's Ring.
Let's see how you handle a real
That's a voice? Okay.
I'll break your back. Not bad. Let's try something else.
Dude, the voice.
Rollo guides my hand.
No, the voice is...
Impressive. Let's see how you handle this.
Dude, who did the voice acting?
I'll twitch your hands up.
Uh-oh.
I'll break your back.
Grab.
Let's end this.
Just die, just die. Tank. Oh
Worthy
my gosh.
opponent.
Oh my gosh. That... Oh, I forgot to run. Oh, could you imagine if that killed me? Oh my gosh. That voice, the voice acting, it mind wiped my brain. Everything I was thinking before completely went out of purview when I started hearing, I'll break your back. Oh, I was like, ah! Oh, I was like, I'm gonna lose. I'm gonna start laughing. I grinded out Doom not only for my Avernic Treads max, but the Confliction Gauntlets. I went to Mage Arena 2 to get my imbued Zami cape. 69. 70. And I grinded out the Chambers for hours to get Ancestral. Oh! And look what I got! Sadly, I could only get the top and the recon color. So I subbed in Virtus Robe Bottoms. And I even spent an entire day grinding out the Imbued Heart just so I can go into raids with boosted magic stats. Is it going to be lucky KC 3682? Come on. Oh my gosh, we got it. Oh my god. All of this to realize my max hit wasn't going up. I thought I was going crazy, but since the random crits and bonus damage on delayed attacks made it so hard to tell what your max hit really was, it went unnoticed for the entire playthrough. But in the very end, I finally caught on to what was happening. I went to build a dummy in my house, and when I tested out my damage, I was dumbfounded. I did more testing and research just to make sure, and to my great disappointment, I found that I was indeed losing 44% magic damage to this artificial clamping mechanic. This made it so executing enemies was far less rewarding, and it radically lowered the Shadow's performance even in the Tombs of Amascut, where it should shine as the best weapon. The second issue we need to address is the incredibly slow flight speed of the Shadow. From the moment you click an enemy to the moment the enemy actually takes damage and stops existing is so incredibly long, it takes 3 rotations of the Earth around the sun to hit an enemy with a Shadow. And this is much more painfully obvious when playing on Leagues, since the attack speed is so much faster. Couple this with the execute mechanic and you get a terribly wonky feel. If you machine gun down a guy, the attacks take forever to hit the enemy, so you can have about 2 to 3 projectiles in the air at one time while firing from a long distance. The problem is, for your next attack to execute, the enemy must register as having less health than your maximum hit. Once that requirement is hit, then you will launch an executing attack. This means you can fire 3 times at an enemy with medium health, bring them below your max hit with the first 2 shots, and not get an execute with your third, making you have to shoot a 4th shot now that the enemy's health is registered as below your max hit. Another ramification for the long flight speeds is that you cannot execute the BBL or the Baba Boulder Leap when fighting Baba. Even though you will always one-shot any of the boulders as they are below your maximum hit, the projectile is so slow that it doesn't kill the boulder for 1 or 2 ticks longer than range does, making the BBL virtually impossible to pull off as it's extremely dependent on both high damage and perfect timing. Beyond this, the Shadow has another issue in Leagues. When clicking on an enemy character, you will register as shooting before any animation or sound even plays. This makes it incredibly hard to do a 2-tick step shoot, and it makes it even more convoluted as to when you actually need to switch targets after shooting, resulting in a very high rate of overkilling enemies with an extra shot. This makes the monkey room take longer than using a hybrid style, even with the incredibly high accuracy and guaranteed executes of the Shadow. Look, before I continue, I want to tell you just how much I prepared for this raid. I got 99 mining to do 1 down Akka puzzle room. I got 94 herblore to create an extended anti-venom plus so I could pre-pot the entire raid and not waste ticks clicking an extra potion. I was almost there to having full blood Torva and the ZCB with the exposure perk to be able to quickly bring bosses down to the execute thresholds. I was even going to get Dragon Claws so I could 1 down the Warden's Core. And this is where we run into probably the biggest upset for the entire event. The Thunder Khopesh. I was trying hard to continue the challenge when I gave the Thunder Khopesh a chance as my temporary spec weapon, just theorizing for what I would do for my actual speedrun once I had the last of the pieces in place. I didn't know that this weapon would completely negate the dozens of hours of prep and grinding I had done to get here. I tried the Khopesh in the Warden's Core. Instantly 1 down. I wasn't even wearing Torva. I was wearing my mage gear. So I tried it again, thinking, well, this would be nice to hit bosses with as an opener for my mage build when it executes. It killed them. All of them. Without draining my spec bar completely. No armor. I could run in there naked with just the Khopesh and end all of them. I thought, well, I'll run out of spec dumping it all on one boss, so maybe I'll, use my mage gear for the next boss fight and have that carry while my spec restores. My spec restores after every boss. More than even this, I realized that I didn't even need the saturated heart that took me so long to get. You could just run into Zebak's room, stand in front of the boss, turn off your prayers, and die, causing your last stand to trigger while you're Khopeshing him into oblivion. And once your last stand boosted stats run out, you are left with boosted stats in every single style, equal to that of the saturated heart. It's because of these reasons I'm upset about the state of Leagues or Gridmaster, at least for the grand wizards like me. Using primarily the Thunder Khopesh to delete every boss, I was able to achieve a sub 12-minute Toa run. And this is naked in terms of melee gear. In fact, I'm going to do an entire raid actually naked using only the Khopesh, an item given to all players for free after completing the Build Demonic Throne tile on the Gridmaster bingo board. Because we're looking for speed clears, I've only enabled Feeling Special as to keep the enemy's health as low as possible and to speed up Akka's Simon Says phase. As predicted, I completely wiped the floor with all the bosses while using just the Thunder Khopesh. And I only really had trouble with Baba, as her monkeys did trigger my last stand and drained my prayer substantially, so I stood there for 3 minutes waiting for last stand to come back before attempting Baba, which was not the greatest idea because without prayers or ranged, the boulders kind of just ended up killing me. Maybe I should have brought more than just the Thunder Khopesh, but I was feeling a little bit pissy and I wanted to make a point. I died once here and got a couple honey locusts, which was nice. If I had brought a rune crossbow and a shark and 1 dose of prayer pot, I would have saved about 4 to 5 minutes on the run. I'm going to subtract that from the end time because this is very achievable with basically nothing in your inventory. I got 16 minutes and 37 seconds, but if we subtract the 4 to 5 minutes, that's below 12 minutes with just the Khopesh. And doing an expert run, it's not that, it's kind of negligible how much more time it adds. It's only like a minute, maybe 2 minutes using just the Khopesh. Just because of how much damage it does. It doesn't take long to burn through that much health. Look, I do enjoy the craziness of Leagues items. I'm not a hater of them. I just wish that Magic was a lot better than it currently is in Leagues. From hard damage clamping, taking away the reward from those long grinds, to the slowness of the projectiles delaying executes and causing mechanical issues and overkills, and the odd echo items making Magic entirely outclassed, it gets to be a little bit discouraging. I do love game design, and I've been working on my own games for about a decade now, so instead of just pointing out the issues, I'd like to suggest some solutions. If I had the power to change anything, I'd change these things. 1. I'd unclamp the magic damage percentage from the character so that the shadow can perform as it's intended. 2. I'd increase the flight speed of the shadow and make the firing animation and sound effects much snappier only during Leagues so that it can be used more intuitively with the 2-tick attack speeds. 3. If you're gonna have an execute mechanic, then have the game engine predict the health of the enemy after the current shot's damage goes through. If it's below the execute threshold, then the next attack should always deal its maximum damage. I would rather have a weapon that overperforms in executions based off possibly incorrect predictions than a weapon that consistently performs poorly. 4. I would change the execute and crit mechanic. Hey, I appreciate Jagex trying to make new things that are still creative and while also not making a ton of extra work for themselves. It's just really smart. I totally get it. And I do like that they've tried to make each combat style feel unique from each other. But the crit system, it makes it so hard to determine what your max hit actually is, which is crucial to knowing if you can or cannot one-shot your enemies with executes. If I were to come up with a new mechanic for the Combat Masteries, I would probably choose one of these 2 ideas. For the first one, I would bring over the Echo Hits concept from the Melee Masteries, as it's a goldmine. Make your projectiles have a chance to fire more projectiles behind them with increased animation speed and smaller projectile size. These projectiles do progressively less damage, just like the Echo melee hits, but I think they should fire far quicker and tighter in timing to each other, sort of like how the Noida machine gun wands can just shoot a large volley out of nowhere. Make the projectiles choose a differing flight path so that the attack looks and feels substantial. When you get a huge proc, you should feel like you just shot a massive cannon off. To offset this alternative crit mechanic, you can leave out any flat damage buffs given to magic and allow these crits to be far stronger than any of the other combat styles' crits. For an execution mechanic, you can keep the mechanic the same as long as you implement the threshold prediction mechanic or speed up the hit registration and flight speed of the attacks drastically. But if you want to get more creative with it, I would increase the execute threshold to enemies with less than 20 to 25% health. This percentage can be scalable for specific bosses if it needs to be more balanced. Once enemies drop below that health threshold, you fire at full speed with the echo hits, causing an ungodly sound to come out of your weapon, and enemies will quickly be burnt to a crisp. This would be far stronger and far more useful for bosses with high HP, which would make it worth investing in magic or bringing someone who does. This would effectively work like a slower Sage's Axe from the Trailblazers Reloaded League, but just a lot cooler and more fun for us Grand Wizards. This idea preserves the uniqueness of the masteries while fixing the issue I see present in Leagues. Alternatively, if you want a completely different idea for Magic, make it work the opposite to how it does now. Currently, if you stop attacking for a few ticks, you will actually get a 40% damage increase on your next attack, which I understand makes a decent opening, but is completely ignored and only serves to make the damage you deal a bit more convoluted. This incentivizes you to stop attacking bosses for longer to hit bigger, which is kinda odd to me. If you want a unique feel for Leagues, I would recommend the primary mastery mechanic centered around dealing progressively more damage when hyper-focusing one enemy. If you stop attacking the enemy for more than one tick, your entire buff gets drained and you'll have to start from the beginning, slowly ramping up damage with each consecutive attack. The stage of the effect would also be reduced by 1 every time the character moved. Each attack increases your magic stage, with each stage from 1 through 5 providing a plus 5% total damage increase. Each stage from 6 through 10 providing a plus 10% damage increase, stage 11 provides a plus 25% damage increase, and the final stage, stage 12, doubles your entire stack of damage bonuses, making you an absolute monster if you reach that stage. Keep in mind, that means you would have to be locked onto a boss, not missing any ticks for 12 attacks in a row, while moving as little as possible, before you would benefit from this. Again, to balance this, you should not provide any base magic damage increase at any ranks of your combat masteries. These stages should be indicated by visual glows around your character's feet and by a numerical icon on the left of your screen, almost like a fire growing brighter and more intense as your character charges up. The projectiles could additionally be wrapped in stages of fiery animations. You would need 4 animated, translucent, and glowing projectiles to represent the 4 main tiers of damage scaling, with sounds to go with each of them so the player can feel the power scale they are currently at, rather than having to rely on just seeing a big number appear on the boss. If this needs to be balanced, you can require players to reach Mastery 5 before being able to access stages 6 through 10, Mastery 6 before being able to access stage 11, and Combat Mastery 7 to be able to access stage 12. To add more chaos and cool factor, you can add mechanics to the Mastery tiers that synergize with its main feature. For example, you could have one tier unlock the ability for your ramping to begin firing off molten orbs from the target upon impact. These orbs then target random nearby tiles, sort of like the Baba's sarcophagus attacks, dealing damage to enemies on the tiles as well as enemies in adjacent cardinal tiles. Further upgrades could allow these orbs to restore prayer or health to allies who run underneath them before they hit the ground, which would allow for team play. Every 2 stages you ramp up causes 1 more projectile to spawn from a struck enemy. Since there are 12 stages, the maximum number of orbs possible would be 6 per strike. If you needed to, you could weight these additional projectiles more towards stage 12 to make stage 12 feel more of an intense power spike. Another mastery tier we could introduce is an aura mechanic. So long as you are standing still, your aura lights ablaze with intensity equal to that of your stage. The first 5 stages provide no bonus, while stages 6 through 10 cause your character to burn with an aura around them. This aura deals damage to enemies every tick equal to 1/10 your current max hit, affected by the stage damage bonus. From stages 10 and 11, your aura burns even brighter, dealing 2/10 of your current max hit every tick to nearby enemies, and providing plus 75 defense in every style to both you and your allies within the adjacent tile's aura. Upon reaching stage 12, you explode, dealing your current max hit to any enemies within a 2-tile radius and healing you and your allies caught in the effect to full health plus 10%. After which you will continue to deal the 2/10 current max hit to enemies inside of this now increased aura. Keep in mind that this 2/10 max hit damage aura takes into account your current magic stage damage bonus. Additionally, you and your allies will now receive plus 150 defense in all styles, while within the aura. Upon reaching stage 12, you cannot again reach stage 12 for another 12 seconds. If you would reach stage 12, you would instead stay at stage 11 until the cooldown is over. This would prevent the constant abuse of walking to reduce your stage by 1 and then attacking again to create another fireball every other attack. Though this mastery is cool enough to me as is, I think we could add one more potential mastery mechanic if people really want it. Again, as a possible final mastery mechanic to go along with this theme of trying to lock on to your target and move as little as possible to maximize damage, we could create a visual link between the player and its target when at stages 6 and above, starting at stage 6 when the aura first grows. This link would reduce the target's defense by 2% per stage for each stage following 6 to 12, resulting in a total of 12% defense reduction for the target. It would also provide a negative armor bonus to the target equal to the stage count for all damage other than magic. This would effectively make the target you're focusing vulnerable to your friends using range and melee, but not allowing yourself or other mages to deal increased damage due to this vulnerability. This would effectively make the weapons like the Scythe, which typically underperforms during leagues, absolutely amazing during team play, as the triple attacks would benefit from each of their own instances of negative flat armor applied to the boss. Upon reaching stage 12, this link could also provide a 2.5% lifesteal to your magic attacks, allowing you to tank some shots rather than having to eat or move and lose a stage. This combined with a mechanic that penalizes you for moving would be very interesting to me. I imagine players would be finding ways to play around this. For example, in Warden's P3, you would stand on the left side of the arena and step over the floor damage to avoid unnecessarily moving, which would allow you to reach stage 12 faster, at which point you wouldn't want to move at all, focusing on praying against attacks correctly and trying to keep the damage high enough to out-heal what you will be tanking. I'm just a big fan of situationally broken power levels. You could even make it so enemies caught between the player and their target take 1/2 the player's current max hit per tick as a fun little add-on with big implications. Keep in mind that the ramping stage damage would go away completely if you switch targets or stop attacking. If this doesn't feel right or is a little bit too harsh, we could make it so every tick you don't attack, you only lose one stage. And if the players don't like the damage scaling being lost when switching targets, we could make it so the damage only reverts down to stage 5 when switching targets. This would immediately give the player a visual cue because stage 6 aura would light up again upon first striking a new enemy. I've got so many ideas for this, and I hope Jagex sees this because if anyone could do something like this, it would be Jagex. Again, no hate for them. I respect them as arguably my favorite development team. If you have any ideas of your own or you have thoughts on my ideas, let me know down in the comments. I love hearing feedback and brainstorming with people to make this game as great as it possibly can be. Without a further ado, I'll see you next time.